There. So, welcome everyone. Thank you for coming live. And if you're listening to the recording, then thank you for listening to the recording. Um, just a bit of housekeeping first. Leo and I are pinned, so you will not appear on the recording. Um, and you're welcome to have your screen on or off as you prefer. And a reminder to try and make sure that you won't be disturbed for the hour of this workshop. We will be on time. Um, and we encourage you to practice your cave-like protection by turning off your notifications.
And we'd like to invite you to make sure that you make yourself super, super comfortable throughout. So we're going to trust that you will practice tending to your needs throughout the whole session. Um, we know that some of you might have to go back to work before the end. If you know that, please plan your time so that if you need to leave early, you have at least 5 minutes lying down and acclimatizing before you go. And we will send out the recording afterwards, so you won't miss anything.
Hmm. So I've introduced myself in case you don't know who I am. My name's Kate, and I'm a facilitator and a writer, a somatic practitioner, a seasonal nut job. And I specialize in menopause, in aging, and I've been a therapist for more than 30 years now. And I'm 60 now, and so I'm about a decade after menopause. So I have a really good objective viewpoint to the process of perimenopause. And I'm in sort of second summer now. So I'm coming around to a second summer in an aging body.
Lovely. I'm Leo. Um, I am a yoga teacher, senior yoga teacher, but much more somatic in the way that I teach rather than vinyasa. I also incorporate a lot of meditation and yoga in the broader sense. Um, I'm also a therapeutic Thai massage practitioner, so working with the body and working predominantly with aging bodies also. Have been working with women's health for, the last 20 years, working through pregnancy and postnatal, and obviously sort of moving through all the stages, which has led me in my authoring of my books also. So my most recent book, Embodied Menopause, is out on October the 8th, which I'm very excited about, which is quite the manifesto for positive aging. And, I'm very proud to be in the same arena as Kate, supporting this sort of alternative narrative than the dominant culture offers us, how to age, with joy, as well as all the other feelings. I am just 53. I am in the liminal space of being very prepared for menopause, but not quite being there. So I'm still bleeding and really ready not to. So yes, I'm in the not knowing when it's going to stop, but very comfortable with the idea that it will now.
Thank you, Leo. Oh yes, the book is a cracker, by the way. Leo's book. I had a sneaky peek, and yeah, look out for that later in the year. So last month, I noticed how when I was sitting in traffic or doing the washing up or the laundry or the many, many things that I do that I'd rather not do, that I don't really want to do, that I'm kind of wishing my life away and seeing that as something to be got out of the way so that I can get on with my life, my proper life when I arrive. when I have that lunch date with a friend, when I get to have a yoga class or lie down in yoga nidra or something, I'm constantly saying, "Oh, it'll be all right then," you know. Um, and over the month, I began to see how most of my life is in between. Nearly all of my life is waiting for something else to happen. And I saw how toxic this can be, because life is so short. Life is so short. Um, so I made a conscious change of attention, and I've really grabbed this time back for myself, and choose to use it like lunch with a friend or a yoga nidra, i.e., to deepen my relationship with the world around me and with the world and with myself. Um, so that any time can be cave time. It doesn't really matter what I'm doing. It's about the attitude and the perspective that I bring to it. So that might look like different things. That might be an appreciation or a gratitude for for the resources I have, or as very often softening. I tend to be quite hard in my mind and in my body, like most humans these days. So softening helps. And certainly more, bringing the attention, very simply, bringing the attention into my body, particularly into my pelvis in some way or belly, even momentarily, is absolutely transformational. And this is not news to you. You'll know this, but I've really seen a difference, and I feel that I have lived more fully in the last month because of this practice.
Lovely, thank you. Following on from that, I had a very sort of similar realization a while back, especially around the concept of me time. So, we've had it marketed to us so much, this idea of me time, and it became very clear to me that that's always somewhere over there. In the same way that, me time is, a spa day or a holiday, I'll get back to myself, after this life event, after menopause, then I'll be myself again, and, that sort of led me, in terms of yogic philosophy, like, well, who am I now? If I'm not me until I get to over there, who's this? And there's so much tied up in identity around perimenopause and menopause and how we, reassess how we feel, who we are. But I really wanted to get back to the sense that all of those aspects are always me. So, me time is exactly as Kate was saying, washing up, putting my moisturizer on my legs, taking my kids to school or walking to somewhere. So the liminal spaces, much as the perimenopause itself is a very liminal space, menopause is a very liminal space. The liminal space is in between the events where we feel like we're going to become ourselves. Those two are, that's where we are. And that's often where the deeper work of, sort of being honest with ourselves lies. So, again, this invitation into the cave where you are, you're not sort of the other side of it. Here you are right now.
Yeah, the cave is always there, potentially. I wanted to give you some framing for the for separation. And it's the first phase of perimenopause. The time sort of it comes on gradually for some people. Sometimes it comes in like a storm blowing in. And it's the way where we start to see how our way of living doesn't suit us, how the world is not supporting us, that things are too stressful and too fast and too brutal towards ourselves as we move towards more sensitivity and more permeability. And one of the things, needless to say, there's no support for this in the world. We're supposed to carry on. One of the things that uh, happens is that our identity that we've worked so hard to build, to nourish, to be the, to be the adult, to be the adult in the room. Speaking personally here, I had to work really hard to be an adult. Gets destroyed. That gets destroyed. That has to die. That has to go. And that's part of this autumnal, wintry process that identity has to dissolve and soften so that the new identity can come in the second cycle, in your second spring. And this is, hugely tough. It's very, very tough. And it takes endurance, community support. It's a long process and it takes endurance. And it shows us how far we've moved away from ourself, from our inner self, from our child self, from our true self, whatever name, however you give that or how you understand that. It shows us the gap. And that is deeply painful and uncomfortable and brings a lot of grief and a lot of difficult feelings, which need to be felt and acknowledged. And it asks us to come into a deeper relationship with ourselves, to move towards ourselves. And to do this, we need to withdraw, hence the name. It's separation. It does what it says on the tin. It asks us to separate from the world. It requires quiet, it requires gentleness, and it requires a protective cave. So a shelter, grounding, a cave surrounding warmth for this process to unfurl from us, for us. And for sure, you can't do all the things that you can't keep going on as you have done and have an easy time of it. You can't be all the things to all people and move through this phase of your life. Maybe it's possible for one or two people, but it makes it very hard. And as you know, Leo and I have both just illustrated with different examples from our lives, we delay the cave time. When I've finished this workshop, then I will rest. When I've finished my list, then I will have a cake. We're always delaying things, delaying our nourishment, delaying our cave time. Um, it's always tomorrow. So we have to learn how to integrate this cave time, this quiet, this nourishing into the everyday and take it now. Take it in medicinal doses every day, like a tincture or a medicine every day. And that means going more slowly, letting yourself off the hook, forgiving yourself, lowering your expectations, delegating, moving away from people, all sorts of ways to integrate cave time in your life. And there's much more about this in my book, Second Spring, and I've written about it online, so you can find out more about it. But we're going to move now into some beautiful movement where Leo is going to guide us. And I'm very looking forward to that.
So thank you, Kate, and welcome into your cave space. Obviously, the constant throughout all these experiences, this whole, endurance or joyful journey, whatever your journey unfolds for you, and it will include all of those things, is, your body and your breath are your constants. So these are your anchors that you can access anytime, all the time. So I would really recommend that you come back again to these practices, and any other practices that support you, really regularly. So, you might not just wait till you get to your yoga class once or twice a week, or wait for your meditation at the end of the day. You might just take even 3 breaths, or just a couple of minutes to feel into your body is going to be like this beautiful anchor that is always available for you as a touchstone, for where you are now. And of course, that's the root of yoga, and how it can really support us through this transition is that your body and your breath can guide you back into the present moment and what is here, away from all the stories, the concepts, the thinking, the overthinking, the a bit more overthinking than that, back into, here I am now in this body, experiencing this sensation, however subtle. So I thought we'd just do some really simple stuff just to demonstrate or remind you. Again, nothing that you probably don't know already, but we often need reminding, don't we, of, how the simple things can make a lot of difference. So you don't need any kind of special equipment at all. I hope you've got some space. I know some of you might be tuning in from work, in which case, if you're at a desk or whatever, you can do this sitting up. That'd be absolutely fine. But if you have got space to come onto your hands and knees, that would be lovely. If you do have space to lie down, that would be lovely. But if not, we can adapt. And that's a really important aspect as well, is that we can adapt, to be able to be, again, that sense of, how am I, where am I, who am I here and now in this space? So, even if you're waiting for a bus, you could adapt some of these practices, to be useful to you in the moment. So if you can come to your hands and knees, I've got all these cushions here. I'm just going to move them. We're going to use those in a little bit. So if you do have comfortable stuff, you can come back to that. If you're comfortable on your hands and knees, that would be wonderful. If not, you could be sitting down and you could have your hands out in front of you. That would also work really well. If you're not comfortable on your knees for any reason, again, you could sit, and you can do, all this stuff we're going to do with the upper body in this way. You can have whatever support you need also. So, Kate and I are always talking, in all of our stuff about meeting yourself where you are now. So if your wrists, for instance, don't support you comfortably in this position, you could come onto little fists. You could come down onto your elbows and forearms. You could come onto something, or again, you could sit up and have your arms out in front of you. So I'm just padding out my hands, just getting a sense of the space between my palms and the ground. You could also do this to a wall as another possibility. So just feeling the space between my fingers, the contact between my skin and the ground. So this is one of the simplest ways that I find, is really useful to come back into the body, is to make contact with the ground. You could also do this with your feet if you're sitting. So feeling your literal contact with your ground. So you're re-earthing yourself. Interestingly, there was a study a way back that, this works, this grounding, this earthing, on any surface other than gravel. So it doesn't matter if you're in a first floor of your building, you can still earth yourself, as long as it's not on concrete or gravel. Lovely. And I'm just going to invite you to, in your own way, to start some little circles. So circling around. Again, you can see how, this would be very easily adapted to sitting or standing or any other position that you're comfortable in. Getting a sense of your breath. Getting a sense that you're not trying to do anything, you're not going anywhere. Especially if you practice yoga or any other movement modality a lot, and you know things about the body, things about your body. In this moment, just try to put that knowing aside. So there's nothing you need to know other than feeling into what this experience is. So how does it feel? Where are you invited to move if your thinking mind just slows down, calms down, and takes the back seat for a moment? And that in itself is, a big part of the practice. So be really patient with yourself if your mind is still interjecting. It's very involved in what you should do. Are you doing it right? All the stuff. In your cave, there's no one watching. There's no expectation of you, and there's no judgment. So, much more useful to you is how does this feel? So you might find that, you start to move through lots of different dimensions, planes. That movement may slow down. Sometimes it might speed up a little. It might stop entirely. You might find little edges where you meet something that feels like it allows you to explore a little bit of space where perhaps, it felt compacted or a little bit stuck. You might close your eyes so that you build up a sort of sensory relationship between your body and the floor or the chair if you're in a chair. So that again, we feel really rooted to this space, to this spot here and now. We're not going anywhere. You can, of course, move in the opposite direction if you haven't already. You might notice things like the space through your spine. And you sense into how the space between your vertebrae move. The front, the back, the sides of the spine. How the spine relates to your belly, to your pelvis. And of course to your breath. So can you feel your breath moving in and out of your body? Again, you're not trying to breathe, you're not controlling the breath, but you're just bringing your kind attention to it. Noticing how it feels not to have a map of where you're going or what you're doing next. As always, we can use our somatic practice to explore our responses, our reactivity, our samskaras, so our habits, the formations of our mind. Lovely. Winding that when you're ready, gently back into your center. Lovely. And then if it's comfortable to you, if you're on your hands and knees, coming into whatever version of child pose works for you. If you're sitting down, you could do this over your desk, so you can adapt. You could always come up to a chair if you're sitting, up to your bed. I've got cushions here, so if you have your comfortable nesting stuff, that we invited you to bring if you can, you could make a lovely nest for yourself. And allow yourself to settle in whatever way feels comfortable for you. So test, does this feel comfortable? Do I feel as supported as I need to be? Is any movement useful before I settle into a place of stillness? So I'm staying up so that you can still hear me on my mic, but you come down and settle. And notice how it feels. So it can be, as Kate was saying, talking about the season of autumn, it can be very challenging to slow down. There can be real anxiety around what will happen if I stop, and allowing the unwinding in the body in this way, allowing the unwinding in the breath in this way by not doing so much in our practice. That can be an invitation to explore, how does it feel to do less? How does it feel to come into this cave of spaciousness, subtle awareness, so noticing little things that arise in your consciousness, in your body, adapting if you need to adapt, or doing nothing if nothing is needed. And that nothingness, that emptiness, how does that land in your system? Is it welcome? Is it worrying? Is it challenging? So we keep practicing, this is a practice. We can keep practicing, this, doing little, doing less, even doing nothing. I think it was Thich Nhat Hanh who said, being no one, going nowhere, doing nothing. And what does that emptiness, what does that space, when we slow down, when we still, when we come to nothing, how does the mind respond? How does the breath respond? How does the body respond? You might have glimpses where there is calm. You might have little glimmers of that empty space. And of course, the mind, being conditioned as it is, might keep throwing up new things for us to think about, to be distracted by. And that's okay. That's normal. That's human. We practice noticing them, noticing I'm distracted. My mind is busy. My mind is taking me somewhere other than the cave. Can I bring myself back gently, lead myself back into this space of less? Back into this space of separating from, all the need tos, the shoulds, all those expectations and judgments, and back into the space of simply noticing what is here. I'm going to invite you to come up very, very slowly and easily. And we're simply going to come to lie down on our backs. So there are a number of different possibilities. Again, if you don't have space to do so, you could make yourself really comfortable on a chair or any other sort of nest-like possibility that's available to you now. So you could fold over your desk. You could, if you're sitting on a chair, you could fold over your legs, let your head and neck drop forward. If you're lying down, you might bring cushions under the sides of your knees, and you could bring the soles of your feet together, knees out as you lie down. Or you could have the bolster or your cushions under your legs with your legs straight. Or you could lie down on your side, something like this. So you could also lie down on your side with your top leg supported, head supported. So lying down, in other words, sitting down, as you are able to at this time in this version of your cave in a really comfortable way. I'm going to lie down on my back with my soles of my feet together, the knees out, because that feels inviting for me today. Another time it might be some other position. Spread yourself out. So spread out your shoulders. Spread out the back of your neck, the back of your head, your spine, your pelvis. And check in. Are you comfortable? Are you held? Do you have the support that you need here? Are you warm enough? And is anything else needed? So there may be other things needed that I haven't mentioned. You tune into what you need. And we're going to tune into the space within the body. So I'd like you to draw attention to the space at the back of your forehead. So just feel the front of your forehead. You could even bring your finger there if you need to, if that's useful to bring, a clear sense of where that is. Sometimes touching the outside of the body can help us to locate our attention there. So you could bring your fingertips, the palm of your hand, or just your attention over the center of your forehead. And then drop that back to the back of the skull. Breathing fluid and easeful, nothing to do to the breath, but just noticing that it's there, coming and going. With your attention to the space between the front of the forehead and the back of the skull. This practice, is one that we can do anywhere, as long as you're not operating heavy goods vehicles or doing anything, dangerous. You could do this sitting at the bus stop, pause at work, finding the cave between the front of your forehead and the back of your skull. Eyes closed. Noticing that although we know that our brain is there, I think for most of us it's very difficult to visualize anything but empty space here. So visualizing this space between the front of your forehead and the back of your skull, the void. Although we know the brain has a certain density, when we sense into this space, we can feel spaciousness, ease. So feeling this sense of space, feeling this sense of ease, almost as if it has no edges. You might notice whether it feels light or dark, warm or cold. Any other sensations that you notice as you're bringing your attention into this space. You might simultaneously create a little space between the upper and the lower jaw. Feeling the space expanding from between your forehead and the back of your skull down into your jaw. Feeling the space expanding down into your throat. So can you visualize all the space that's available within your body as you breathe in, as you breathe out, down into your lungs, down into your belly. Feeling the breath expanding all the way down into your belly, deep down into your belly, deep into your pelvis. Again, perhaps accessing this sense of vastness, limitlessness, emptiness. Although we know that our viscera is jam-packed in the belly, it's really tightly packed, there's so much in there. When we sense into it, you might sense into the feeling of spaciousness between the front of the belly and the lower back, between your diaphragm under your ribs and your pelvic diaphragm, feeling this sense of space, openness that you can breathe into. And you still feel the space in your head, the space in your torso, the space in your belly, this vast open space within your body. Like an infinite inner universe. And how does that affect your breath? So can you feel your breath expanding into this space, welcomed fully into it? Do you notice that the in-breath, without trying, perhaps expands? And that the out-breath is allowed fully, completely. And you may notice that there is space between the inhale and the exhale. It's not something you need to grasp for or create or make happen. It's just there. This natural little space at the top of the in-breath when you're full up, before you empty. And then at the end of the exhale, when you're fully empty, can you feel that space there before the next in-breath naturally flows in? So feeling that there is this natural flow in and out. Still, can you feel the spaciousness around your breath, around the body? So we create with this awareness of the space that is naturally there, accessible there anytime. Again, with this sense of me time, it's not over there, somewhere that you're waiting for. It's right here, right now. It's vast and infinite inner space that we can access at any time. You can stay exactly where you are. Or it might be that you're invited to expand the body. Maybe you stretch out, have a really big yawn and a sigh, maybe wiggle your toes and your fingers. But there's no need for you to get up if you're lying down. If you're sitting in a really comfortable position over your legs, you can stay where you are. We're going to continue with our offerings to you from our cave. Just checking in for yourself that you're still really comfortable, really resourced. with a sense of this expanding space.
Thank you, Leo. I'm very spacious. What can I say? We just like to drop in and say a little, give a little information about our retreat. Leo, would you like to say anything about that?
So we will, of course, send you all the details. There's nothing for you to retain about this in terms of information, but just so it's seeded in your consciousness in this spacious cave as something that you might wish to delve into a little bit deeper with us in a full day workshop. So it's on the 20th of September, 10 till 5. At Barkham Village Hall. We will be able to arrange lifts, probably mostly from Brighton, but it's possible from further afield if you need. We can talk about that. And Kate's very kindly put the link in the chat, so that's there for you whenever you need it. And we'll be expanding on these practices in person. And the practices are appropriate whatever age you are, whatever stage you are, whether you're on HRT or not, whether you have or will have surgical or non-surgical menopause. The practices are specific and non-specific equally. So, they'll be really welcoming us into this sort of space of perimenopause and menopause as a spiritual portal, as, this liminal space that you can expand into, and really find yourself in in the way that you might find treasure. And we do have early bird that ends at the end of this month on the 31st. You can pay in instalments. There are discounts of 10% and 15% for coming with friends. So all that information, is in the chat, will be in your inboxes, and we would love for you to join us in person.
Thank you, Leo. So we're going to close with a nidra. So find a way to get even more comfortable, whatever that might be for you. And even after we close this nidra in 15 minutes or so, you're welcome to stay in your cave. There is no requirement that you jump up and rush off. We recommend that you go slowly. Take your time. And this nidra is a retreat from everyday life, so that you can find peace in your cave. Finding a position and support that work for you today. And there's a good temperature. You might take something off or put something on. Blanket. Take your socks off if it's hot. And all through this practice, you can move into more comfort. And also just ignore anything that I say that doesn't work for you. You are the boss in your cave. You're the boss of your cave. And you know what is working for you and what is not. You might like to just slowly scan your space, looking, moving clockwise with your eyes or your head, slowly looking around your space, tracing the edges, looking behind you, coming all the way around. So you see the walls of your space. You see that you are contained here. And see what you can do to soften around your eyes. Might be open or closed. Softening temples and forehead. Inviting eyes to soften back into space, into the space, into the cave of the skull. And if you'd like to play along with me in an imaginary game, you can imagine that your everyday life is in a basket or a bag. And you could pick it up, test it, feel the weight of it, the complexity. And I invite you to put that bag or basket down. Let it drop. And feel the relief of putting it down for a moment. Likely shoulders drop. Fingers can uncurl. Back can stretch and soften into more comfort. And in the cave of the skull, the mind can soften back, take more space. And if you'd like to, you could call in a protective animal to sit by that basket, to look after it for you, while we go on a journey around the body, inviting in peace, peace for the body, peace to the tongue, the tip and body and back of the tongue, and the cave of the mouth and the lips. Peace to both ears. Peace in both nostrils. In the throat and the shoulders, both shoulders. Peace in the elbows and wrists and hands. And peace in all 10 fingers and thumbs. Peace landing the center of the breastbone and in the heart. Peace landing in the belly, the cave of the belly. Peace landing in the pelvis, both hips, both knees, both ankles. Peace landing in 2 feet and all 10 toes. Whole body, inviting peace in the whole body. between the fingers. Under the fingernails. Peace between each toe, in the webs and the spaces between the toes. Under the toenail. Peace in both armpits. Peace in the groins. Peace all around the body. From crown over shoulders and arms, down hip, around legs and feet, and up the other side around legs and hip, torso, shoulders. Peace in the front, peace behind. Peace within. Peace without. And dropping down as though you could take a lift down from the cave of the skull, descending down and down past throat and heart, solar plexus, navel, to the deep core, to the pelvic cave. Let yourself come to the entrance of your cave and feel the relief of finding refuge, safety. Notice how the walls are warm and welcoming. And as you enter, the noise and the glare, the brightness of the world drop away. And if you would like to, you can move deeper into the space of the cave, feeling the quiet settle on you like a mantle, like a cloak. The light soft. And come and sit by the fire. It's a comfy place to sit or lie. It's soft and welcoming. And food is here, your favorite dishes, just so, just as you like them. You can taste the delicious food, and there's bright, fresh water to drink. Hear the crackle of flames, softness beneath you. Smelling the smell of earth in the womb of the earth. Notice how it is to be held safe by the womb of the earth. There's no target to meet, no lists, no goals. You can rest, protected, quiet, nourished, for another moment. And another moment. And knowing, even as you understand it's time to take your leave, that you can always return here. You notice there's an object on a silver platter, a gift for you, a talisman to remind you of your cave time. And you receive this object, this talisman, and take it with you as you move back towards the entrance. Light increasing. And take a moment at the entrance of your cave just to pause. Wait a beat until you're ready to step out. And it's as though you can take a lift from the core of your pelvis, moving back up to navel and belly and solar plexus and heart and throat to the cave of the skull, knowing that you have been resting here in Yoga Nidra. And before we re-enter the everyday world, you may recall that basket or bag of everyday life. There's that basket, and in your hand is the talisman that you were gifted in the cave, that gift. And you can choose to take anything out from the basket that doesn't belong to you, that you don't want, that you could let go of. You could just take it out and leave it before you pick up your basket, or you could just leave the whole damn thing there. As we come to the end of this Nidra, feeling your fingers and hands, maybe they start to wriggle and stretch and flex. Toes waking up and curling and uncurling. And remembering where you were lying. And before, from behind your eyelids, remember the space, that rotation we did at the beginning, moving around your space, remembering the boundaries of your space where you're resting in this Nidra, cave Nidra, tracing the edges. And if you would like to, you can open your eyes. Stretching and moving and knowing that you can stay here as long as you need to in this space. Or if you need to resume your day, you can softly open your eyes, check out your space, and stretch your way back into your day. Thank you for resting with me. So that is bang on the hour. Thank you to everybody who has made it here this lunchtime. And thank you for listening to the recording. We're going to say goodbye and we look forward to seeing you very soon.
Bye, folks.